A Tipton football player dies 2 weeks after a head injury on the field.
He said he opposed gay marriage. Now Governor Nixon changes his mind.
And Target 8 investigates. Are you paying too much at Walgreens? KOMU-8 News at 6 starts now.
From Studio 8A, coverage you can count on in high definition. This is KOMU-8 News at 6.
A Tipton high school football player is dead after suffering a serious injury on the field 2 weeks ago during a game. Good evening, I'm Brittany Pieper.
And I'm Jim Rick. Thanks for joining us. The medical examiner confirmed Chad Stover's death this morning. The Tipton High School junior suffered the head injury during an October 31st game against Sacred Heart High School in Sedalia. Stover was flown by helicopter to University Hospital, where he was in critical condition for 2 weeks. KOMU-8's Nicole Cartmel tells us many Missourians are reaching out to the family with their thoughts and prayers.
That's right. It's been a devastating day for Tipton, Missouri. The community is now mourning the loss of Chad Stover. On the football field, Stover was known as number 18, a wide receiver. Friends of the family tell me this was his year to shine on the field. 2 weeks ago, though, he took a nasty hit shortly before the end of Tipton's football game versus Sacred Heart. And today, Stover's life was cut short. Family and friends say they will remember him for his infectious smile. Others say his story has brought towns across mid-Missouri together.
The power of prayer is unbelievable, and I know our students here and our faculty every day has not gone by where there hasn't been an intention or a dedication of prayer towards him and his family for healing, both physical healing but also, spiritual and emotional healing.
Now many are reaching out with their prayers and thoughts for the family on Facebook page supporting Stover. Vicki Natchbar Williams wrote, "Amy and family, I am so sorry for your loss. Chad did an amazing thing. He brought strangers together to pray. He touched so many lives. Rest in peace, Chad." And Trista Kieran posted, "We all love you so much, Chad, and you will never be forgotten. All of our prayers go out to the Stover family. Stay strong. We are all here for you and will support you through this. Love you, Chad Stover." No word yet on when funeral services will be held for Stover.
After Stover's death, we looked into the problem of head injuries in local high school sports. A recent report shows a spike in those sports-related concussions. KOMU-8's Rachel Kars investigates just how common concussions are.
With communities rallying in support of Stover, I look deeper into what happens when head injuries rattle our lives. Whether you're on the field, on the mat, or on the court, head injuries can and do happen to athletes every year. A new report by the Institute of Medicine shows more reported sports-related concussions this past decade.
It's hard to say that it is, in fact, more kids getting concussions or just more of a prevalence of the public being educated and people coming forward saying that they've had a concussion.
The most recent case, the death of Tipton High School football player number 18, Chad Stover. Stover suffered several critical injuries after a hard hit in a Halloween game against Sacred Heart.
It was about 6 minutes to go in the ball game. Chad was down on the field. We went out to check Chad. It didn't take real long to realize it was a serious situation.
But Chad isn't alone. According to the Missouri State High School Activities Association, more than 1,300 football players suffered from head injuries in Missouri this year. And it isn't just football players shaking things up. Wrestling and even women's basketball have reported injuries. But what exactly happens when you get a concussion? A concussion can happen when there's any sort of whiplash or blow to the head, which can cause the brain to shift inside the skull, sometimes even hitting the inside of the skull, which can cause damage to the nerves. Doctors say these types of injuries have serious consequences.
Now they're finding out a lot about NFL players who have had issues with, like I've said, possible depression, suicide, things of that matter that could be related to concussions that might not have been properly treated back then.
But more research might keep things in perspective.
We learn more about what actually is happening in the brain that could bring about some good and hopefully be able to keep people involved in sport, because there are good things about sport, but definitely not worth, risking your life for.
Something Tipton superintendent says they're learning from experience.
But we always complain about this and that and what the call is and different things, and in reality that doesn't matter. What matters is not who wins or loses, it's that everybody walks off the field or off the court when the game's over with.
Stover spent 2 weeks in critical but stable condition after the hit. I spoke with Stover's mother on Saturday when Chad was still hospitalized. She said she was grateful for the outpouring of support her family had received.
Stover's mom says she wants to push for regulations to ensure ambulances and medical personnel are present at all high school sporting events. There was no ambulance at the Tipton Sacred Heart game. In Missouri, it's not required for medical personnel to be present, but it's recommended. The Missouri State High School Activities Association says requiring this could be difficult for small towns.
When we're talking with the schools in outstate Missouri, there may be 2 or 3 ambulances for the county. And so that's where we have a little difficult time making it a requirement that you have to have an ambulance at every athletic event.
West says the association has a difficult time requiring medical personnel in rural towns where resources are limited.
Governor Jay Nixon is changing his tune on gay marriage. Nixon told reporters today he's issuing an executive order for the Department of Revenue. KOMU-8's Alex Mallon was at the news conference, and he joins us to tell us how Missouri state tax code is set to change. Alex?
The governor called reporters to his office today to talk about a new executive order he's issuing. The governor ordered the Department of Revenue to accept jointly filed state tax returns from same-sex married couples who come in from out of state. The position change reflects a litmus test issue that is testing politicians across the country.
Many Missourians, including myself, are thinking about these issues of equality in new ways and reflecting on what constitutes discrimination. For me, that process has led to the belief that we shouldn't treat folks differently just because of who they are.
The Republican Speaker of the House, Tim Jones, responded to Governor Nixon's order today, saying, once again, Governor Nixon is trying to play to all sides of every issue, indulging his liberal ideals while hedging his bets by saying the courts have forced his hand. Now, here's the catch. Listen to this clip from an interview KOMU-8 News did when they sat down with Governor Nixon last year while he was running for re-election.
I've not supported gay marriage in the past and don't at this point. I don't anticipate much legislative activity in that area.
Now, under the state constitution, Missouri still does not legally recognize gay marriage. Nixon says this attempt was mainly about balancing the state's tax code with the federal tax code. And now, if Missouri were to move towards legalizing gay marriage in the state, it would have to come from a ballot initiative for the voters. Now, Nixon says that he is interested in revisiting that issue in a later election. Reporting live from the state capitol, Alex Mallon, KOMU-8 News.
New at 6, a massive drug sweep in Sedalia. 37 people indicted, including 23 from Sedalia. Prosecutors say drug traffickers distributed more than $1 million worth of cocaine and crack cocaine. Several of those caught were also indicted on possession of illegal firearms. Operation Coin Collector was a 2-year investigation by state and local task forces.
New information on Alyssa Bustamante tonight as well. Today, the Cole County Circuit Court postponed her hearing indefinitely. The teen was scheduled to appear in court tomorrow at 9 a.m., but her lawyer requested to push that hearing back. Bustamante pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and armed criminal action for the October 2009 killing of 9-year-old Elizabeth Olton. Bustamante was only 15 years old at the time. In what was described as a thrill kill, Bustamante stabbed Olton, strangled her, slit her throat, and left her in a grave covered with leaves. Bustamante was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole and ordered to serve a consecutive 30-year term for armed criminal action. Yesterday, she asked the court to vacate her guilty pleas.
Let's send it over to Dave for a quick check of the forecast.
Okay, well, another fairly decent day today. Now, quite a bit of sunshine. We warmed it up into the mid-60s today, and right now we are seeing a bit more cloud cover moving into mid-Missouri. That is going to continue through the overnight and into the day tomorrow. Temperatures, 48 degrees in Columbia, 53 in Jefferson City, cooler at the Lake of the Ozarks with the temperature at 50 degrees. Now, for over the next several hours, if you've got your KOMU-8 weather app, you'll know that the hour-by-hour forecast will find those temperatures falling back to around the low 40s by 10 o'clock tonight. Our forecast for tomorrow is even warmer and warmer yet for the weekend. We'll detail all that for you coming up on KOMU-8 News at 6.
The State Attorney General's office says stores are deceiving and items are overpriced. In light of a lawsuit against Walgreens, KOMU-8 investigates to see if local stores lived up to those accusations.
Plus, the Missouri women on the court tonight will have a preview later in sports.
The First Alert Weather Cam is brought to you by your Heart of Missouri Chevy dealers.
A pretty nice day today in mid-Missouri, but that wind kicked up pretty good from the south-southwest at about 10 to 15 miles per hour and gusting. Now we're seeing some clouds moving into the picture as we look at live Doppler 8 First Alert radar and satellite composite, and that's going to be probably continuing through the day tomorrow and maybe even as we get into the weekend. At the present time, 48 degrees. It's mostly clear. We've got some high cloudiness, so you don't notice the clouds very much out there, but they're at an upper level. We have a wind out of the south at 9 miles per hour. That's settled down quite a bit, and humidity still isn't too bad, but we're going to see that increase as that southwesterly breeze continues. At the Lake of the Ozarks, we're at 50. We'll contrast that with the 44-degree reading at Moberly, 49 in Sedalia, 48 in Boonville. Fulton's at 48, Mexico at 49. Herman is at 47 degrees at this hour, so really not too bad. Now, the frontal boundary we have off to the west-northwest is probably just going to weaken and just become stationary as it moves into the central part of the country. So we're on the mild side of that. Of course, on the other side of that will be some cooler conditions. And once that front does move through, probably by Saturday, we're going to be seeing a pretty decent chance of getting some rain shower activity to be followed by slightly cooler conditions. But the weekend really looks warm, and I'll get to that here in just a second. As we take a look at temperatures for the forecast period, we'll move it into about 8 o'clock tonight. Temperatures will settle down into the low to mid 40s. Overnight, we'll get into that morning time drive to work temperature. Looks like right around 36, 38 degrees in most mid-Missouri locations. And then tomorrow afternoon, we'll bounce right back with a high temperature, probably right around 60 degrees in the upper 50s, I'm thinking. Here's our specific forecast. Increasing clouds, not as cold tonight. 36 for the morning time low. This morning we bottomed out at about 29, so we're making steady improvement each and every day. A few more clouds on your Friday. A little warmer, 56 for the afternoon high temperature. And here's a look at the extended forecast. Picture of the weekend, Saturday and Sunday both. Probabilities of rain are about 50 to 60%. We'll be in the middle 60s on Saturday, upper 60s probably on Sunday. Some areas may well be into the low 70s in portions of mid-Missouri. Now, once that warm air moves through, that's going to increase our probability for getting some thunderstorm activity on Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. At this time, we don't expect anything severe, but we'll keep an eye on it. Here's our First Alert Weather IQ question brought to you by Big O Tires, a division of MFA Oil. Research has shown that eggs laid by certain amphibians can predict the weather. Which one do you think is the one who does that?
I've never heard that, but that's pretty neat.
Here's a look at our Facebook fans. They seem to think it was a turtle.
Well, I could see that, especially like at a beach, sea turtles. So I would go with what the viewers are saying.
Really?
I would go with B.
I think the answer actually is frogs, who tend to move their eggs in the center of the pond when they're anticipating dry weather.
Yeah.
Got it. All right,
You got to keep a close eye on those frogs, that's for sure. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
In late July, the Missouri Attorney General's office filed a lawsuit against national drugstore chain Walgreens for overcharging.
After the break, KOMU-8 investigates if prices were outrageous. That's next. We have a Target 8 investigation tonight. Are you paying more than you think at local Walgreens stores? The investigation follows the Missouri Attorney General's lawsuit against the company for price deception.
KOMU-8's Bryn Whitaker went to the two Walgreens locations in the KOMU-8 viewing area to see whether she would pay the right or wrong price for what she bought.
In late July, the Missouri Attorney General's office sent investigators to 8 Missouri Walgreens locations. The investigators bought 205 items total and found the stores overcharged for roughly 20% of the items.
Walgreens refused to let me shoot inside their stores, but that doesn't mean I can't go to a couple of the investigated stores and check out the prices myself. I went to this Walgreens in Jefferson City and a store in Osage Beach and bought a variety of items from garbage bags to cologne.
After buying 21 total items and taking pictures of the price tags, I found no overcharges on either receipt. But the Attorney General's office says the suit is about more than just overcharging.
the overall amount of information that a consumer is faced with on a very, very minor purchase is something that we think at some point, if it's ambiguous and confusing and it takes consumer longer than a certain period of time, a reasonable period of time, to figure out what they're paying, that's just inherently deceptive.
Walgreens refused to go on camera, sending me a written statement instead. In it, the chain said, "As we said last August, we have a 112-year history of acting in our customers' best interests and earning their trust. That will continue to be our focus in all areas, and we're glad to see our stores following through to meet our customers' expectations." But for consumers who want to be proactive, checking the sales tags closely is the best way to prevent price deception.
I would recommend that anyone who shops at a retailer that aggressively uses tags and advertisements that don't match up, keep a scratch pad with you. And if you think you're paying $2 for a tube of toothpaste, you make sure you get that tube of toothpaste for $2 at the register.
Bryn Whitaker, KOMU-8 News, Jefferson City.
The first hearing on the suit against Walgreens will be on December 16th in Jefferson City.
The last time the Tigers played in KC, they walked out as Big 12 champs. Coming up in sports, what the Tigers say about their return.
Now, from the Ford Sports Desk, KOMU-8 Sports with Chris Gervino.
Hello, everyone. The Missouri men's basketball team prepares to head to Kansas City to take on Hawaii. It's the Tigers' first trip back to KC since they won the Big 12 tournament championship in 2012. Interim Tiger coach Tim Fuller takes on perhaps his toughest challenge so far in the Rainbow Warriors. They feature a couple of talented post players in Isaac Fotu and Christian Stan Hardinger. The Tigers off to a 2-0 start with Fuller at the helm. He says he and his players are looking forward to a return to the Sprint Center.
Just really excited to play in there and, looking forward to the game. I guess it's my first time playing in there and I'm just trying to get a win.
It'll be my first away game, so I'm looking forward to it. I know it'll be a blessing to play there.
More than just a barbecue. Obviously, the Sprint Center is some great feelings about that place. I remember last time we played there, streamers were coming out of the ceiling. That won't happen this time, but hopefully we have the same result and get a victory.
Barbecue is not a bad place to start, though, if you're hungry. They've got some options there, as Jim Reek will agree. While the men's basketball team gets ready for Hawaii, the Tiger women will tip off against the Evansville Purple Aces in just about a half an hour. The Tigers off to a 2-0 start the season of their own, coming off a win over SIU Edwardsville by 11 Sunday. Senior forward Bree Coulis led Robin Pingeton's Tigers in that ballgame, scoring 16. And sophomore Morgan Stock close behind with her career-high 15. Those two had some help from the bench players who scored 31 of the team's 59 points. Evansville is 1-1 and coming off a loss to Murray State. Highlights, of course, for that game for you at 10. The state high school football playoffs continue tomorrow night with Class 6 quarterfinal games around the state. The Rockbridge Bruins will visit the Fort Zumwalt West Jaguars. What an interesting year for Rockbridge football. The Bruins lost their last 4 games of the regular season to finish 4-5. Then they began the playoffs without starting quarterback Logan Tweehouse and beat Jefferson City 48-18. They followed that with last week's 21-point win at Francis Howell Central with Tweehouse. So who knows what to expect from Rockbridge, but right now, Bruins trending up at just the right time postseason play. That's sports.
Bringing man's best friend home could actually be cheaper than you think.
The Humane Society has a deal for you. That's coming up.
Adding a furry friend to the family could cost you less than $5 this weekend. The Central Missouri Humane Society is running a $3 for 3 days special this Friday through Sunday. Because of a rapid influx of animal drop-offs this fall, the shelter wants to make more room for more animals. CMHS is currently home to 200 cats and dogs, which is close to their capacity.
Intakes taper off this time of year, but we've been actually seeing still a lot of litters of puppies and kittens come into the shelter. So, we decided to act fast and, try and come up with something that would clear the shelter, and that's what this weekend's all about.
The $3 rate is the lowest offered price in the shelter's history, and there are some cuties out there.
Yes, there are. Tonight at 10, former Columbia police officer Rob Sanders will make his case before the city's Personnel Advisory Board tomorrow to try to get his job back. This comes more than 2 years after he forcefully shoved an inmate in a holding cell and got fired from the department. Sanders says he followed his training and he wants to return to work.
We are supposed to use the minimal force that we need to take somebody into custody or do whatever the goal is. And in this particular case, I did exactly what I was trained to do.
Tonight at 10, KOMU-8's Emily Spain tells us what's next for Sanders after sitting down with him and his wife Amy. You'll also hear from Police Chief Ken Burton about the use of force and what he allows. That's coming up tonight on KOMU-8 News at 10.
Clouds are going to be on the increase through the evening and overnight hours. We'll get down to about 36 degrees for a morning time low. Again, partly cloudy to mostly cloudy tomorrow, Friday, with a high at 56 degrees.